Scotland is being invited, once again, to go on a voyage of independence.
Good morning, everybody.
The SNP's General Election Manifesto, unveiled by Nicola Sturgeon in Glasgow today, made a number of demands of Westminster. Increased NHS funding for the UK, and by extension Scotland, and a new NHS Protection Act. Halting the Universal Credit Benefit System overhaul. Protection of the pensions triple lock, and opposition to any increases in the state pension age. And scrapping of the Trident nuclear deterrent.
So let people be clear. A vote for the SNP in this election is a vote to reverse austerity and to protect our NHS. It is a vote for action on climate change, for a fairer country and for more powers for our Scottish Parliament.
But of course, the key demand is a new Scottish independence referendum in 2020. This would be the price required of Labour if Jeremy Corbyn needed SNP support to enter Downing Street after the 12th of December. The Brexit referendum in 2016 has led to political turmoil, social division and economic dislocation. Now Nicola Sturgeon says that Scotland can escape the Brexit chaos with the SNP. But doesn't her party's central manifesto pledge of another independence referendum risk opening the door to more chaos, only of a different kind? So if the Scottish people were to vote for independence, you're saying there would be no chaos, it would be entirely smooth?
I would like to think so, yeah. I think what we're putting forward and what we're going to put forward over the next year is a very clear vision of how we see an independent Scotland going.
So no trade frictions, no inconvenience for business, entirely smooth sailing?
I wouldn't say completely smooth sailing, but you know there obviously will be some niggles, I would say, but you know we'll obviously try and make that as smooth sailing as possible for everyone involved.
And all this is imported at the moment from
Everything
Denmark.
comes in from every single piece.
Pro-independence Adam Davidson runs Bow Concept in Scotland, both importing furniture from the EU and exporting it to England. A fifth of Scotland's overall trade is with the EU, but more than half is with the rest of the UK. If an independent Scotland rejoined the EU, that could create a hard border with the rest of the UK.
It's a theoretical possibility. I don't believe it would actually happen. The rest of the UK will want to deal with Scotland. Scotland will want to deal with the rest of the UK. There's no logic to it. Brexit, we know what the Westminster government are trying to accomplish. They're trying to separate us. They're very keen on a no-deal Brexit. They're trying to get complete separation from the EU. That's not what I want from independence, and I don't believe it's what most independence supporters want either.
No, that's where I come from. That's my grandparents' views.
No. But Ryan James, a Glasgow restaurant owner, isn't buying the rosy economic story of independence and is concerned about how it would affect his own business.
There has to be confidence in the economy for people to get out their purses and start to start spending their balances, but also to start to want to take on credit and to see a future. At the moment, the future is just so vague. It's like looking through kind of perspex rather than glass.
The push for independence adds to that uncertainty.
Oh, totally. If we look at what happened at the last Indy ref, so that was like a 3-year hiatus of nothing happening. It just brought the economy, put the brakes on and brought it to a halt. And it's irresponsible, I think, of any politician to kid on that that is not happening and that wouldn't happen, because it will happen. Why would a Japanese firm or a Russian firm or any firm want to come to Scotland when they don't know what the deal's going to be in 2 years' time?
Leaving aside the outcome of this general election, a fundamental question remains. Can the Scottish people really be convinced that the smoothest economic sailing lies outside the United Kingdom?
Well, that was Ben Toon joining us now, the SNP's Cabinet Office spokesman, Tommy Sheppard from Edinburgh. And Tommy, let me just go down your checklist. If you're in power, if you get what you want, Scotland has a second EU referendum, a second Indy referendum, and if that succeeds, you then begin negotiations to rejoin the EU. Is that right? So the chaos that you've railed against in recent years could end up looking like a walk in the park.
I don't think that's the case, Emily. This is a radical manifesto from the SNP launched this morning, but there's 3 themes running to it. The first is that we will lock the Conservatives out of power and end the austerity that has so jeopardised our communities in Scotland over the last decade and begin investing in our public services. Secondly, we will escape the chaos of Brexit, because there's no such thing as getting Brexit done. The 31st of January will only be the start of the process. And most importantly, as you rightly say, we will assert and demand that people in Scotland have the right to choose how they are governed.
Okay.
And that's the principle we want to be established, where we're in a situation of a hung parliament and having discussions with other parties.
Let's look at this chaos then, because in trade terms, as we keep hearing your party say, the EU is 8 times the size of the UK. But less than 20% of Scotland's exports actually go to the EU. 60% go to the UK. So actually, in trading terms, it's the rest of the UK, that market that really matters to Scotland. You don't want chaos there, do you?
Well, both matter, Emily. We need to have the best possible trading arrangements with mainland Europe, which is why we want to stay in the European single market and the customs union. But of course, also trade across Britain is vitally important as well.
Okay.
And we want to make sure that that is maintained and optimised.
So I'm just trying to understand this, because if you, let's say, leave the UK and join the EU, and Britain diverges and leaves with Brexit, then you've got a major problem. You see where I'm going? This is another hard border now between Scotland and England, with diverging formats that you can't cross easily with trade.
Well, you're speculating, because we don't really know what's going to happen. But I mean, no one here and no one in the SNP wants to have a hard border in the island of Britain.
You want, though.
No, but hold on.
We
I mean,
won't be aligned,
certainly
right?
in terms of the movement of people, the common travel area will remain intact. No one is suggesting that that should change. So there will be free movement of people across the border. In terms of trade, I hope that we can have completely frictionless trade with the rest of Britain.
Of course you hope.
Very important to us. Whether or not that can be achieved very much depends on what would happen to the rest of the UK and whether they decide to isolate themselves from the European mainstream.
Everyone wants frictionless trade, but I'm just trying to get you to be honest, because if the UK without Scotland has left the EU, you're not going to have frictionless trade. We are not going to be aligned. The EU will be deciding your standards. Westminster will be deciding the other side of the border. That's not going to be frictionless. That's going to be chaos.
So you're asking me to speculate on
it's all speculation.
Various hypothetical things. Sure, okay,
course.
well, I'll play along. But I mean, you know, we are determined to try and avoid a hard border for trade within the island of Britain.
But that's what they said about the island of Ireland as well.
Well, indeed. Well, here's the thing, Emily. You know, they are saying that in the island of Ireland, it's entirely possible for one part of that island to be aligned with the European Union and another not to be at all, without there being a hard border. If that can be the case in the island of Ireland, then logically that has to be the case in the island of Britain as well.
It sounds like you're now buying into the Boris Johnson Brexit deal as he's proposed it then.
No, not at all, because it will be a terrible deal for the people of Scotland and indeed the whole of the United Kingdom. It will make us poorer and it will diminish our character. So we're very much against that.
Okay.
But in terms of speculating, what's important is our intention in these matters, and our intention is to have the best of relations with the rest of the United Kingdom and maintain trade across the island of Britain.
Tommy Sheppard, thank you.